This is the CiMPLE Epiphany video. This is version 2. If there's anything in this that you think could be better, please leave that in the comments below. But specifically what we're going to be talking about is why multiplying your tokens is more valuable, more important than whether or not the price goes down. And I'm going to prove that very, very quickly with a simplified example. And then I'm going to go into a more complex example where over a period of 8.5 years, we took $100 on a spreadsheet, keep in mind, and turned it into over 400 million using this kind of ideology. And that ideology is to buy using leverage and then sell when the price goes up in order to take a net gain in tokens. And at the end of the day, multiplying is more important than if the price goes up or down. So let's break into the simplified example, and let's start by saying we have 20 tokens, right? So right here, 20 tokens. We're going to use a starting price of $1,000 per token. 20 times 1,000 is 20,000, so that's the starting value. And we're going to use clean, simplified examples, right? And I do want to emphasize this is exaggerated just to get the point across, using the simplest, cleanest numbers we can so that it's easier for you to mentally follow along with everything, right? So all we're doing is saying the price goes here, then it goes back to there, right? So 2,000 to 1,000 and back and forth. Easy math that way. And so if we took the original quantity of tokens times the end value, it would be $40,000 in value, right? So watch what happens. Okay, so here's the rules of the cycles, right? So token to buy, right here, it's taking half of the original amount. And this one, it actually just says 10 up there, but if I click the other ones, you can see it's divided by 2, right? So it's taking the original amount divided by 2. So you take half the amount that you have, and you multiply that by the current price. That gives you 10,000, okay? And then to sell, because each token is now worth 2,000, it only takes 5 tokens to sell in order to pay the 10,000 debt, right? So if you look at this, what it's doing is it's saying take the amount of debt that you have, divided by this end value that the tokens are worth, and how many would you need to sell to pay off the debt completely. Once you've paid off the debt completely, you have 25 tokens when you only had 20 tokens to begin with. You have 25% more tokens on one cycle doing this, right? And so the value of your original tokens would have been 40,000, but because you did one of these cycles, it's worth 50,000, which is again 25% more than it would have been worth otherwise, simply because of the multiplying steps. But that's on one cycle. This compounds and it grows and it grows. So let's look at the second cycle. Okay, so the second cycle, because you now have 25 tokens instead of 20, half of that is 12.5. So because you did the first cycle, the second cycle you can buy at a larger scale, right? So again, it's times $1,000. Real life is never going to be this clean and easy, but as a mental model for you to follow along, we're sticking with those numbers, okay? So 12.5 tokens times 1,000 each is 12,500. Again, you only need to sell half of them to pay off the debt, right? And then you take a net gain in this 6.25. So you take the 25 tokens you had, you add in the 6.25, and you now have 31.25 tokens. If you multiply the 31.25 times the 2,000 value, and you get 62,500. So I'm just gonna show you real quick. This just went through 10 times, 10 cycles, but more important, let me show you this graph right here, okay? So if I hold the mouse over there, 40,000 is what it would have been worth. After the first cycle, it's worth 50,000, 25% more. But guess what? Each time it's become 25% more. So this grows exponentially. So the next cycle, also 25% more, 62,500, then 78, then 97, 122, 152, 190, 238, 298, and finally after 10 cycles, 372,000. So after 10 cycles, you take that 372,000 and you look at what it would have been worth, the 40,000, and you have a net gain of 332,000. Now, even at that point, if it went back down to 1,000 and you take the number of tokens you have times 1,000, so let's go down here, okay? Net number of tokens times 1,000 is still 186,000. Right? So even at the lower price, it is worth a multiple, about 4.5 times more valuable at the lower price, half the price, but more tokens, right? It's still 4.5 times more valuable than if you did nothing. That is the power of this. It is incredible. It creates this compound interest, okay? And the way that you do it is you leverage, you use debt, and the way that the debt occurs is actually in a decentralized manner. What that means, there's no application, there's no approval, there's nothing. If you have the assets, you can get the loan. That's it. If you have the assets, loan is approved. That's it. So I could have pushed this way harder than that and shown even better numbers, but I don't have to. That's how incredible this is, right? So let's go through a larger scale, right? This is 10 cycles up and down. What this is doing, and I don't want to go through all the details of this because I did in another video and I was told that it was just too overwhelming for people. But what it does is it goes through, you could see the dates, right? It goes through the dates for 8.5 years, okay? Starting with $100 and multiplying it in a similar fashion. It's a slightly different set of rules that we're not actually using now, but these are the rules that we had in place for this spreadsheet, which was part of our origin story and the fact that it inspired us to keep pursuing this. It was the epiphany moment for us where we realized, oh my God, this is incredible. But the rules that we're actually doing to really multiply are not these rules. It was just the thing that got us started. But following these, and by the way, what we're doing now is better and safer at the same time than what the spreadsheet says. So keep that in mind when you're looking at it. The starting rules, starting with $100 worth of Bitcoin, okay? That $100 worth of Bitcoin after 8.5 years would have been this value right here, the 45,000, which is incredible, right? You put up $100 worth 45,000, that's incredible. Now that's at a value of 56,000 per Bitcoin. Depending on when you're watching this, it could be higher or lower than that now, right? So it would be higher or lower than this value now as well. But by multiplying, it increased the quantity of tokens by 9,600 times. 9,600 times, okay? And so that's a gross value here. Of course, there is some debt. So this is the gross quantity. It's not subtracting out the debt to figure out what the net quantity is. That's fine, but here's what I'm talking about. When you subtract out the debt, $363 million on this spreadsheet when we started with $100 on this spreadsheet, following these simple rules that aren't even as good as what we're doing in real life. And so just some perspective. If we look at this graph right here, this is at log scale. I want to show you what this thing looks like real quick before I go any further when I take off log scale. Okay, so look at this for a second, okay? This value is so high that you can't even see this value right here. It's off the screen. That's how small it is compared to this. So let's talk about what those values are and let's make it so you can see it. So the 45,000, this tiny little line down here, that's what it would be worth if you did nothing. This right here is saying if the value of Bitcoin was still, I believe it was $123, yeah, so this $123.65, right? If it stayed that value, right, which is, showing you 56,000, but if it stayed that value and all you did is increase the quantity of tokens, similar to what I showed you in the last one, it would have been worth $960,000 at $123 a Bitcoin, but it's not $123 a Bitcoin. So you take this multiplied by this, and that's where you end up with this 363 million. The crazy numbers. Actually, it's this multiplied by that minus the debt, because otherwise it would have been 438, right? But we subtract out the debt to give you this. But just look at how much it is as a difference, right? We're talking 45,000 if you bought and held for 8 years, which would have been incredible if you were multiplying the whole time, but it never went down, but it never went up in value. Just you had an opportunity to buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, and you're just accumulating more and more Bitcoin. This is what it would have been worth. So when I say multiplying is more important than if the price goes up or down, this is specifically what I'm talking about. I mean, you want the price to go up and down because that's the volatility that you want. And on that topic, you should reframe the way that you think about price drops, right? So if you're looking at a price drop, yes, your net account value is dropping. Don't be upset that, oh man, I lost X amount of money compared to an arbitrary point in time in the past. You look at it as, wow, an incredible opportunity to buy at this price. And so you buy at that price using leverage, and then when it goes up, you sell to pay down the debt and you take a net gain in tokens, right? That process of buying the dip and taking a net gain in tokens is way more important than if the price goes up or down. Of course, if you think the price is going to go up, or if it actually does go up, let's say, then you multiply how much it went up by how much you gained, and that's where you hit these kind of crazy numbers. So hopefully you understand multiplying is more important than if the price goes up or down. Very, very important. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit subscribe, share this with all of your friends. We'll do another version of this video. This is already the second version. If we can provide any extra level of clarity, please let us know. Thank you for watching.